If you're wondering how I found myself at 62, threading needles in a dusty sewing room, and living a life that isn't mine, well, here's the story. It all began with one fear, that my son, Mateo Vega, CEO of one of the world's most powerful fashion empires, might go through life never knowing what it means to be truly loved. My name is Maria Vega. A long time ago, I founded House Vega in our cramped apartment, using leftover fabric and a borrowed sewing machine. Now it's a global fashion empire known for red carpet gowns and quarterly profits in the hundreds of millions. That part of the story most people know. What they don't know is that Mateo, my only child, hasn't had a serious relationship in 7 years. He lives in a luxury penthouse, dines alone, and treats love like a weakness. He is admired, feared, envied, and painfully alone. I didn't sacrifice everything to raise a machine, so I did what any overly involved, wildly wealthy, slightly dramatic Latina mother would do. I disguised myself and got a job as a sewing assistant in our New York City design studio. Yes, I lied to my own company. I wore thrift store cardigans, glasses too big for my face, and a fake resume under the name Marisol Ortega. I knew Mateo wouldn't recognize me down on the studio floor. He hadn't been there in years. I doubted most people would even remember what I looked like, especially the junior staff, but I didn't do it to spy on my business. I did it to find someone, a woman who might love my son for who he is, not the brand he owns. The studio was chaos on a good day. On a bad day, it was a battlefield of fabric and egos. Designers with clashing visions fought over mannequin time. Pattern makers argued over whose version was more accurate. Tailors yelled measurements across the room. Steamers hissed. Phones rang endlessly. And there I was, Marisol, the new assistant, sitting behind a mound of muslin, trying to remember if my fake resume had said 20 years of experience or 30. That's when I first saw her. Camila Rivera. She stood out, not because of what she wore, simple jeans, a cropped sweatshirt, practical flats, but because of how she moved. Smooth, confident, intentional. While others rushed to meet deadlines, she seemed to control time itself. Focused, determined, graceful. Camila was adjusting a dress on a curvy model who looked nervous. It wasn't a sample size, far from it, and the designer, a wiry young man named Stefan, looked visibly irritated. "It's not falling right," he snapped. "It's not cut for her body," Camila replied evenly, kneeling beside the hem. "You're just a pattern tech. Don't redesign my work." Camila didn't answer. She pulled out pins and began reshaping the silhouette. The model relaxed as the dress began to shift into something flattering and wearable. Stefan scoffed, but he didn't stop her. He knew she was right. An hour later, that same dress got a nod of approval from the lead creative director. Stefan got the credit. Camila didn't complain. Later that afternoon, she approached me while I was fumbling with a hem. "You're new, huh?" I looked up. Her face was softer up close. Big brown eyes, a dusting of freckles, a tired but kind smile. "Marisol," I said. Later, I saw him speaking to his assistant. "Find out who that woman is, the one with the pins." In the weeks that followed, Camila and Mateo crossed paths more often. Officially, she'd been promoted to work on key fittings for the fall line. Unofficially, it was Mateo's excuse to observe her. They were an odd match at first. Camila hated being micromanaged. Mateo didn't trust anyone easily. Their conversations started with tension. "This fabric doesn't drape well. It's the only one that doesn't crease under stage lights. Redo it anyway." But slowly, something shifted. She challenged him. He listened. They disagreed, constantly, but they respected each other. And I, the invisible sewing assistant, watched every interaction like it was my favorite show. One afternoon, after a particularly intense fitting, I found Camila in the back room, eating crackers for lunch. "You and the boss seem to butt heads a lot," I said casually. She gave a half smile. "He's brilliant but uptight, probably never made a dress in his life." I chuckled. "He grew up around them. His mother was a seamstress." Camila paused. "Really? Built the company from scratch." She looked thoughtful for a moment. "Then maybe he's not as cold as he pretends." I looked at her carefully. "He's not." The fall showcase was 2 weeks away, and the studio was buzzing, like a hive running on caffeine and adrenaline. Camila had taken the lead on a critical gown for a celebrity client. House Vega's centerpiece for the show. The pressure was enormous. And yet she worked with unshakable calm, cutting and pinning into the early hours, her fingers moving like she'd been born with thread in her blood. Matteo noticed. More than once, I caught him watching her from the doorway. Not the way a boss evaluates an employee, but the way a man watches someone he doesn't understand, yet wants to. With curiosity, with hesitation, with a flicker of something dangerous, vulnerability. They started spending more time together, officially, to go over sketches and fittings. Unofficially, they had begun talking. Real talking. I passed Camila in the hallway one afternoon. She had that flushed look, the kind that doesn't come from ironing linen. "Everything all right?" I asked. She shrugged. "Matteo, he's not what I thought." "Oh?" "He listens. He remembers things I say, like how I drink my coffee or what fabrics give me rashes. And last night, he walked me to the subway, just stood there until the train came. I kept my voice steady. And how does that make you feel?" She gave me a small, confused smile, like I'm in trouble. I didn't say it aloud, but I agreed. So was he. But falling in love isn't always soft. Matteo was still Matteo, precise, driven, guarded. She wasn't someone who surrendered easily. Their arguments came like summer storms, sudden, fierce, gone just as quickly. Over deadlines, over fabrics, over whether a cape on a red carpet was genius or absurd. "You treat people like they're spreadsheets," she snapped once during a fitting. "You assume chaos equals creativity," he shot back. I watched from behind a rack of coats, pretending to adjust buttons. Still, something lingered after every fight, a closeness, a tension, a thread tying them tighter each time. Then came the tabloid leak. Some intern with loose lips and a long lens had snapped a photo of Matteo helping Camila into a car after a late-night fitting. The headline practically screamed, "CEO's secret romance, House Vega's king, and a mystery seamstress." The photo went viral. Camila's name hit the gossip sites. People whispered when she passed. Some designers refused to work with her, accusing her of sleeping her way up. Camila was devastated. "I didn't ask for this," she told me, her eyes brimming with tears she refused to let fall. "Now everything I worked for, they think it's because I smiled at the boss." "Let them think what they want," I said. "You know the truth. So does he." But I knew what she feared most, that Matteo would pull away to protect his image. He didn't. Instead, he called a meeting with the entire staff. Camila earned her position through talent and hard work. I personally requested her on the fall showcase because she sees things most people miss. If anyone here disagrees with that, my door is open. No one stepped forward. When he left the room, Camila stood frozen. "You okay?" I asked. Her voice cracked, for the first time since I'd met her. I think I love him." I didn't hug her, though I wanted to. I just smiled and said, "Then maybe all this trouble was worth it." The fall showcase arrived like a freight train, fast, heavy, and impossible to stop. Every designer, intern, and assistant ran on nerves and espresso. Camila, at the center of it all, worked like a woman possessed. The celebrity gown, her gown, was the final look of the night. By now, Matteo and Camila were something. Not quite a couple, not just colleagues, but they stood closer when they spoke. They exchanged glances in meetings. There was a softness in Matteo's voice, only she brought out, and I'd never seen my son so alive. But the closer they grew, the heavier my secret felt. Camila trusted me, called me her studio mama, shared bites of empanadas with me during late nights. And Matteo? He had no idea his own mother had been hand-finishing hems and eavesdropping for weeks. I was running out of time, especially when Camila's mother arrived from Puerto Rico for the showcase. "I'd like you to meet my friend Marisol," Camila said proudly, introducing me with a squeeze of my hand. "Ah," her mother said, smiling. "You must be the one who told her to buy the lavender thread. She said you have a nose for colors." We laughed, but I felt the thread pulling tighter. That night, Matteo called me. "We need to talk," he said. My stomach flipped. We met in the empty executive suite, the skyline stretching behind him like a painted backdrop. He looked tired, Saf, but more than that, uncertain. "Her name's Camila," he said, pacing slowly. "I'm falling for her." "I know," I said gently. He looked at me. "She makes me feel like I'm not some cold machine, but I'm scared." "Of what?" He hesitated. "Of her finding out who I really am." I blinked. Mateo, she already knows you're the CEO. He shook his head. That's not what I mean. I mean the real me. The version without the control. The kid who lost his dad and watched his mom build an empire from scraps. The one who still gets scared he's never enough. My heart squeezed. You're enough, I said quietly. And she's the one who will remind you of that if you let her. The showroom was packed. Editors, influencers, buyers, all buzzing about House Vega's comeback line. Backstage, chaos reigned. Someone cried over a ripped zipper. A model fainted from nerves. Camila stood calm in the storm, clip-on earpiece in, barking instructions like a general in sneakers. Mateo arrived late, dressed in black, eyes locked on Camila. Ready? He asked. Always, she said and smiled, just for him. When the final gown took the runway, the room went still. The celebrity client walked like a goddess in motion, draped in crimson silk, embroidered with hand-stitched feathers that shimmered like fire. The crowd erupted in applause. Camila didn't react at first. She just stood frozen, as if unsure it had actually happened. Then Mateo stepped beside her and whispered, "You did it!" She exhaled and turned to him. And in that moment, with flashbulbs going off and strangers clapping for a name no one knew, Mateo kissed her. It was a quiet kiss behind a curtain, but I saw it. And I knew it was time. The next morning, I arrived at the studio not as Marisol Ortega, but as Maria Vega. Tailored navy dress, heels, hairstyled, my real ID badge gleaming from my lapel. Camila looked up from her sewing machine, confused. Marisol? I smiled softly. It's Maria, actually. She blinked. I'm Mateo's mother. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. Wait, what? I came here undercover, I explained gently, to find someone who would love my son for who he is. Not the title, not the brand, just him. Silence. Then you lied to me. Yes, I did, and I'm sorry. She stood up, arms crossed, expression unreadable. I trusted you. I know. And Mateo? I shook my head. No, not until today. She turned away, tears stinging her eyes. I need air. And just like that, she left. I stayed behind, tidied my station one last time, gathered my things. But as I turned the corner to leave, I stopped cold. Mateo was standing at the end of the hallway, in his hand, my fake name badge. He looked at me with disbelief. You were Marisol? I nodded. He blinked. You were here the entire time? I was. Why? I had to know if someone could love you for you, not for what you own, not for the name. He swallowed, his expression unreadable. And Camila? She knows now. Later, in the executive lounge, I found him sitting beside a tray of untouched scones. His tie was loose, his eyes red. She's not answering my calls, he said quietly. She's hurt, Mateo. You know her. She doesn't explode when she's upset. She just disappears. He rubbed his eyes. I didn't know what you were doing, but when I found out, I realized I've been lying too. Not with disguises, but by pretending this wasn't real, pretending I wasn't falling for her. His voice cracked. I kept telling myself I'd figure out the right time to say it, to make it make sense. But deep down, I was scared. Scared that once she knew how I felt, she'd think it was all just part of the game. I reached across the table. She never thought it was a game, Mateo. She thought it was home. Until it broke. He looked at me, eyes full of something raw and young. Then what do I do? You go after her, I said. You don't fix this with press releases or contracts. You fix it the same way I stitched together every mistake I made, one thread at a time. Honestly. Slowly. And by hand. He stood, nodded once, and walked out. Not as a CEO, but as a man trying to earn back something real. Camila didn't show up at the studio for 2 days. Her station sat untouched. A pair of scissors lay beside a half-pin sleeve, like a ghost had vanished mid-stitch. On the third day, she appeared at a tiny design school in the Bronx, helping a friend teach kids how to sew with scrap fabric. No press, no cameras, just quiet work. Mateo showed up in jeans and sneakers. He waited until class ended. The students scattered, giggling after seeing the fashion guy from the internet in person. Camila didn't smile. You found me, she said. I needed to, Mateo replied. She folded her arms. So what now? Another speech about how none of this was a setup? He shook his head. I didn't know about any of it. Not the disguise. Not what my mother was doing. She raised an eyebrow. And when did you find out? After you left. She told me everything. Camila's jaw clenched. She played both of us, but it still hurts. I know, Mateo replied. Camila looked down. I hated what happened, she said, but what I hated more was that part of me wanted to forgive you anyway. Why? Mateo asked. She looked up, finally meeting his eyes. Because I love you, Mateo, and I think I've been trying not to since the moment you walked into that studio. Mateo stepped closer. I love you too, he said. I didn't know what this was at first, but now I do, and I don't want to lose it. Camila's voice softened. Then let's figure it out. Together. No titles, no power plays, just us. He nodded. Us sounds perfect. She smiled, really smiled this time. 6 months later, Camila Rivera stood beside Mateo Vega on the cover of Vogue. The headline read, House Vega Reborn, the CEO and the seamstress who changed everything. Inside, the article detailed the launch of the Rivera Vega Studio Initiative, a mentorship program for underrepresented young designers, fully funded by House Vega. Camila didn't move to a penthouse. Mateo moved to Queens. They still fought sometimes. About sleeve lengths, about campaign lighting, once about guava paste in arroz con leche, but always with love underneath. And me? I went back to being Maria Vega. No more undercover work, no more fake cardigans, but every now and then when the new interns arrive, I wander into the studio with a basket of thread, just to see who offers me a chair and a cup of tea, because that's how you know who has heart. And in this house, my house, that's what matters most.